Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here again with you. And now I'm going to go over the feasibility report and the pitch presentation. So let's go ahead and get involved in that. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen, and here is the slide deck, which you'll find in this module one. And let me go ahead and just go ahead and do this under the presentation mode. But I want to alert you that this is actually not a presentation. All right. It is actually an educational tool. So it doesn't fall under the requirements of a presentation. And the difference is that uh, I have a lot of words and a lot of information on these slides because they're meant to be as a reference for you. They're not meant to be for me to do a pitch presentation on a topic, so it's a little bit different. So I don't want you to think that, oh my gosh, she wants us to have hardly any words on a slide and all sorts of criteria, but she didn't follow that procedure. So this is a different type of slide deck made for instructional purposes, which is very different. So please bear that in mind. Okay, so here we go. And then this presentation doesn't seem to be working properly here. Let me try another way to see if I can make this work. All right, we'll have to do it this way. All right, so here is the next slide. So what we're looking at when we're looking at the feasibility report and the presentation, because the presentation comes from the report, is that, this is like a bird's eye view, but it is rather uh, instructional. It has a lot of good information, and this is what you're going to be doing during the course of the semester. This is a final project, has a lot of grade weight to it. But I want to give you a good feel for it way up front in the very beginning of the course so you know what to expect. There is a template that I've created for that matches the feasibility report. So you can download that, take a close look at it. And as we're going through the course, you can start populating a deck. And then you will wind up submitting a draft. The draft copy, if I feel that you need a little bit more work on it, I will send it back to you and have you resubmit it at no penalty. So you'll just resubmit. A draft is a draft. It can be resubmitted several times. And then, but the final is one time only. Okay, so here we go. So what you want to do is think about if you have a great idea for a business. If not, what can you do to come up with some ideas for a business? Now we're going to be going through all of this information in the modules as we go along. And then we'll have some other spicy things going on as well. And you'll have AI to offer some assistance as well. All right, but here, let's say you have an idea for a product or service that you think people would be willing to buy. You hope that they're willing to buy, but we're going to find that out as well in our customer discovery. Then what you'll need to do is do some research, do some market analysis, and find out, excuse me, if it is favorable to people wanting to purchase your product or service. Then you need to make some financial projections. And then you want to see if it certainly is profitable. Otherwise, might need to make some changes. And then you need to have a team. You will need to assemble a team to put together the product or service, the business, basically, right? The building the venture. And but in this particular situation, you don't have enough funds to get the business started. And that's where we need to have our pitch presentation. You're going to be pitching to an investor group similar to like a Shark Tank type of environment, but the type of pitch. And then so you will be asking them for money unless you have enough money, you don't need funds at all, which is rare. Then you will just be pitching your product to an audience that might want to purchase it instead. So that's how we're going to start off. And then what we're going to be looking at as far as the grading of the feasibility report, we want to really be sure that this product or service is feasible. Is it practical? Will it work? Does it have a possibility of working? And we're going to write a formal report, be about 8 to 10 pages long, somewhere in that range. But you have a template to work with, and you'll be just filling in the information as we're going along during the semester. And you're going to putting detailed information in here about the product, the marketing, the finances, and the organizational feasibility. And then you will submit that on to the draft, and then you'll be submitting sections of it as we're going along. And then you will include that information in the feasibility report. And then you will have a draft feasibility report, as I mentioned. So next item here is you will have a 5-minute PowerPoint video presentation that you'll be delivering. That's a separate grade for that, which summarizes the feasibility report. As I mentioned, it's sort of like a Shark Tank type of pitch, if you will. I have lots of resources for all of this. So please don't think you're doing this right away in module one. This is spread out over the entire term. And I also have a sample feasibility report for you and a sample presentation for you. So you have that you can work with and use that as a model. Next, for as far as the instructions for the feasibility and the pitch, you want to really come up with some type of an original product or service. It doesn't mean that it doesn't already exist, but you might want to make it just a little bit better or different. Think about how it's very rare to come up with something brand new, but might be able to tweak it in some way, fashion, or form to make it different, to differentiate it somehow. And then we want to focus on maybe some smaller problems, incremental changes, rather than a huge uh, change. Now, if you come up with something that's a huge change, that's wonderful, but please don't feel that you must do so. And we want to use a certain type. We don't want to go into something that's just not possible to make, such as no time machines. And we're not going into that area. So we want to stay away from that. And then we don't want to go into something that's going to take a lot of money to start, similar as a luxury yacht. Want to stay smaller scale, more of the lean startup approach, where we don't need that much money, but we may need some money to get started. We also want to stay away from apps. So no apps. You may include an app as part of the business, but the app should not be the business itself. So we want to be careful with that. All right, so now let's move on. So some more instruction here. We're going to go into the idea of the feasibility. And so you will have that. We'll be working on that throughout the semester, in the beginning part of the semester, first few modules, including module 4. And then we will use the final report as the basis for our pitch presentation. So here you want to kind of keep an idea. If you don't have an idea of something, some of you may already have a business that you're running, and you may use that because that may help to strengthen the business and actually strengthen your opportunity for a pitch presentation as well. But if you don't have an idea, let's try to come up with some ideas, and we have ways of doing that. We're going to use AI to help us. We're going to think about problems that you are exposed to or that you see in everyday life that you may want to consider using as an idea for a business or service. So I want to think about that. You might want to keep like an opportunity journal, things that become relevant in your life. You want to think about, certain pain points and what pains or gains, right? We've talked about pains or gains. We'll be talking about them again. So it's either a pain that someone wants to relieve or some type of a gain they want to improve. So we want to think along those lines. All right, next item here is what we also want to do is think about our approach to coming up with some ideas is asking why a lot. Like why this, why that? How can it be made a little bit differently? What can we use? Maybe use some different material. maybe it can be done faster. Maybe, you know, maybe anything. Just come up with, think along the lines of opportunities. All right, next you want to think about like what you're doing in your daily life that might impact, and you might have problems that you see that could improve, and you want to think along those lines. So here's an example, right? We have let's say a product feasibility that can be, to create some kind of value, solve a problem, adjust a gap in the marketplace, something like that. So that's your product feasibility. We have market feasibility, which is the market large enough to want is it going to be profitable enough for you to sell this product or service if the market is big enough. Now, perhaps the market is very, very small and there are few buyers for this market. Will it still work? Will you be able to sell enough to make the business profitable and feasible? So we want to consider all those things as we move along. Now, we certainly don't, expect you to have come up with an idea that you will service everyone in the world. That's just not possible, even everyone in the US. We want to work with a segment, and we'll be going over that in the course as well. We want to see, is it financially feasible? And then also, can you pull a team together to make this a viable business? All right, next, we want to also think when we write the report, so this is actually writing the report here. I'm just going to start with the company name. You want to think about a slogan, maybe a logo. And then we come up with a customer value proposition statement, which you may have been exposed to already. If not, we will be going over that as well. We want to address the problem. And then once we've addressed the problem, because we want to address the problem first, then we come up with a solution. And then we will, in that order. So here is an example. We have a company name, and we come up with a slogan for this. It is the name of the company is the Mobile Angler Fishing Backpack. And what is the slogan? The slogan is save more time, spend more time fishing and less time tripping. And you'll understand why we use the word tripping here when I go into the problem more. So this is a solution to the tripping problem. And then here is a very nice logo that you can generate online. This was a open source image, so you want to be sure that you use open source images that you can use at no cost. All right, so now the value proposition statement, we break it down. We will break this down for you so you can just fill in the blanks that work for your business. Here, the Mobile Angler is an all-in-one fishing backpack for avid fishers who want a convenient way to carry all their equipment on their back. So there's a pain reliever here, game creator, and we also have our customer segment. And so what we'll do is next is we want to address the problem. So what actually is the problem? It's younger children who, not really younger, but adolescent children who ride their bikes. They love to go fishing, and because they're not old enough to drive yet, they're riding their bicycles to their fishing hole. And so it makes it very difficult to carry a lot of different fishing gear. And we have accidents that occur. Okay, so we have, someone fell off their bike, they sprained their wrist, the fishing rod gets caught in the spokes of the wheels, and carrying all this stuff is just hazardous in itself. So this is a problem. So the solution that is here a specific backpack for a fisherman. And it has all this information in it. And this could also be not just for children, it can be for adults as well. At what a different customer segment that this product could go into after it's established itself in this market. Because there are many people that may park and then go to a fishing hole, but still need to walk a distance, and having everything on a backpack to walk that distance could be very beneficial to adult fishermen. All right, so here we have everything included in the backpack, so there's no tripping hazard or anything like that. But we want to think about all the things that the fishermen need that they can transport. All right, so here you can see we have good images here too, and you'll want to include good images for your report as well as your slide deck. So the feasibility, the marketing section will include a market analysis. We would have the customer discovery to make sure we do have customers that will purchase this product for us. We want to look at a competitor analysis. What are competitors doing? How do we fare with competitors? And we want to get some customers. All right, so here we want to look at the market. This is the hiking and outdoor equipment stores market. IBIS World is a good source for that, but you will be going into the library, the FGC library guides to find resources to help you. I like IBIS World because it's chock full of good information. Sometimes the data is limited, but in specific areas, we try to find something as close as possible to help us with our report. Here we look at what the market, oops, sorry about that. We look at the market and to see how large the market is. We certainly don't expect to even get 1% of the market, but we want to take a look at the market to see, does it make sense? We also want to look to see if there's a trend in the market as well. So we want to also look at like, how is the market trending? Is it trending up, stable, or is it going down? If it's trending down, we may want to reconsider or try to look at some other area or pivot in some way. We want to take a look at those areas. We also want to look at our customer segment. So who is our customer? We want to be very, very detailed who our customer is. We're even going to give our customer a name and an age group and where they live and what they do. So we know now this is a customer who's going to use the backpack, may not actually be the customer who's going to purchase the backpack because it may be the parent of the child. All right. So what we want to do next is to go through that customer discovery. We want to think, okay, we have this persona, we have this Carter who is our customer who's going to be using the backpack, but that whole idea of this mobile angler fishing backpack is really loaded full of assumptions, such as that our customer, Carter, has this problem transporting the gear on his bicycle, that Carter cares enough to want to try to fix the problem, that Carter doesn't already have a solution, and that the solution will work for Carter, and that Carter will pay for the solution. So what we want to do is put ourselves in the mind and the eyes of our customer so that we can be empathetic to that customer to come up with a proper solution. And then what we want to do is do some customer discovery. We know we have a large population of adolescents who fish and ride bicycles to fishing holes, but we're not going to interview everyone. We're just going to interview a sample, a small area, a few people, maybe 5 or 10 individuals to find out if the product is a viable product, feasible. So here, what we're going to do is find out if it is not, if people don't want it, well, then we just need to stop and start over and go with something else. If the idea is not working completely, but we can pivot and make some changes to it from the customer discovery information from our interviews, then we would do that. If we're encouraged by our customer discovery to go forward with it, well, then we will go forward. So what did we do? What did we do? We went down to some fishing hole areas where people fished, and we asked some of the children who were fishing, adolescent age, and asked them how they felt about the mobile angler that we had. And we wanted to get their response. We also spoke to parents because they're actually typically the ones that are purchasing. Although some of the adolescents will save up money on their own and they may be able to purchase it. But oftentimes parents will purchase this as a gift for the children. And so we want to interview them as well. All right. And then once we've collected that data, we want to move forward with it. Now, if we can't actually interview anyone, although I encourage you to try to interview people face to face, There's SurveyMonkey, there's other resources out there that you can use, and you can ask AI for assistance as well. Now we want to do a competitor analysis, and it's just a very simple chart. We have our mobile angler, our product, and we want to what else is out there that can serve the same function. There is an Under Armour product, Wild River, and then there is another product. I think there's another product beyond that, which even less. But we can see how we have serviced all these areas where our competitors do not, which gives us a competitive advantage. And then we want to think about how we're going to obtain our customers. We want to think about how we introduce the idea. We start off small, maybe word of mouth, social media, and each year we expand and we hope to generate more sales. All right, next, we want to look at the financial feasibility. So we want to look at how much will it cost us to produce one backpack and each item that goes into that backpack. And we want to think about how much money we need to start with. Certainly, if we need more than $1,000, we want to include that in our call to action for our presentation. So for the pro forma, well, pro forma is like in advance your projected revenue and expenses. So we want to look at a pro forma income statement analysis. So we're going to be doing that as well. And then we're going to break down the costs associated with the product. Now, the cost of goods means that any cost associated with building one backpack. That does not mean your SG&A costs, which are the cost to turn on the lights, like rent, like insurance. They're not associated with the backpack. These are fixed costs that you incur every single month, where these individual items here to create the backpack are the costs of the good. So the good is the backpack, and here are the items, the costs that are associated with it completely. And we're estimating that each of these items, the total cost would be about $25. Then we will look at competitors, and we want to be sure that in this particular case, we don't want to price ourselves higher than the competitors. So we think about, we have our costs, we have our price, and then our profit margin. So we want to take a look at that as well. Okay, I already mentioned the SG&A. We'll go into all of these in more detail during the modules. And then we want to estimate the sales of calculating the revenue projections as well. So we'll go through that as well for each year. Well, I think we're doing year 1, 2, and I guess we're doing 1, 2, and 3. I think we might have 5 in there as well. And then we look at your income statement. We're looking at each year here, what the revenue is projected to be, and then we look at the cost of goods that are for each item, and then we have our SG&A. Those are the fixed costs that are monthly costs that we're just going to estimate what that might be. And this is not, as an entrepreneur, you are not necessarily know all the answers to this. You'll have an idea of what it would be if you're going to make this backpack. You can search and find out what the costs for all these items are. And then, of course, as you grow and you're able to buy larger quantities, the costs will go down per item, which is helpful. But in the beginning, the costs will be higher. And because this is a new innovative product, then hopefully it will succeed. So then we're looking at all these costs associated with each year as we increase the amount of sales that we have, and we're looking at that as well. So this is all the information included in the report, and that you will touch on for the pitch presentation. Okay, so here we want to think about, I'd mentioned this already, the SG&A fixed costs, so we think about those as well. And then in this particular scenario, our pro forma for the first year, we have a negative $200. But we look at year 3, and then we have a positive. Now, this is I'm not sure if this is a full-time or a part-time business, but this is the projected revenue. That you'll want to take a look at this too and say, does this make sense? Do I want to do this? And then so that's helpful to know whether or not you want to move forward or pivot. All right, so then we're going to build this all into a report, and we're going to think about also who can help us, who can be on our team. And so we're going to look at it's not just employees, but you might also need some experts to help you as well. So here we have a couple of, maybe perhaps you need a industrial designer, or you may need a brand manager. You may need people that your skill set is lacking and you want experts in that field to help you. So you want to think about who your team will be. And then we also want to think about business advisors. Now business advisors are not just people that can help you with selling your business, which is wonderful, but also you want to think about, an insurance agent, a an attorney. These are business advisors as well. You have to pay them a fee, but they're also important attributes for your business. Then you have your call to action. You want to think about how much money you will want to request and what it would be for and how it would benefit. Somehow, will there be a benefit to the investor? Uh, Oh, did we do that? We went backwards? That's funny. Okay, so you have your call to action here in this. You're asking for a 10% equity for a $10,000. So you get a 10% stake in the business if they give you $10,000 to start the business, and then what you're using the money for, and so forth. And here's it. Nice to have some images, right? Here's a good one, catching a big fish. And then references are required for the feasibility report, but they are not needed for the slide deck. So you don't need to go into those references. They're already in the report, and we can reference the report. So here you want to just think about certain tips for the presentation itself. So we have want less images, excuse me, more images, less text on the slides. You don't want to be reading off the slides, so you want to be able to know your content, know it well, so be able to just speak about it. And then now style is important, so you want to think about making your slides visually appealing. You also want to think about having high energy and being enthusiastic about your product as well, not reading off slides and so forth. You want to dress appropriately or accordingly to your slide, not necessarily come with a hat on and coming in with maybe a fan running in the background and distractions on the video. You want it to be appealing for the viewer and perhaps someone who would be willing to invest in your business. You want to have a strong start, but you also want to have a very strong finish. So you want to end with your call to action to make it a compelling story. And that is it for this slide deck. I know it was rather lengthy, but I hope this gives you a good overview of what is required for the final feasibility report and the pitch presentation. Please reach out to me with any questions that you might have through Canvas inbox. Any questions on this whatsoever? I'm so looking forward to working with you this semester. Thank you.